Hi there, and welcome to a quick trip through the Zoom tools and menus that you'll see when you're in a Zoom meeting as the host. Some of these menus and tools are also available to participants, but we're specifically going to look at the host view here today. We have to pre-record this because you can't do this while you're in Zoom. I can't share this with you while you're in Zoom. And we'll start with the general view. You'll probably come up by default in speaker view, which shows whoever is talking in full screen. Actually, I've messed with this a little bit because I have pinned myself so you can see me in this. If I unpin the video, what you will see is actually your attendee who last spoke or who is currently speaking. But I'm going to go ahead and pin myself back there. That's something you can do for recording purposes. The other option for viewing the meeting is gallery view. The button will be in the upper right hand corner here, and it's a toggle back and forth. If I click that, I go to gallery view, which is something like the old Hollywood Squares view, where you see everyone who has a webcam running. I have 3 devices in the meeting right now. This is my hosting computer. This is my smartphone, and this is a laptop in another room. So you get a much better feel for who else is in the system, and you can watch them and take visual cues from them and so on. But either one will work. The Zoom menu will normally be at the bottom of the screen. It might show up on one side or the other if settings have been changed, but 99% of the time it'll be at the bottom. If you don't see a menu at the bottom of the screen, mouse over the video window and it should pop up. We'll start from left to right here. The first icon in the lower left is the microphone or the sound icon. This, the thing you'll do most often here is mute yourself. You can do that by just clicking on it and then clicking again. When you're muted, there'll be a red slash through it. You can mute or not as you wish in a meeting. It's probably a good idea to stay muted at least most of the time if you're not presenting in the meeting. Though if there's not a lot of sound in your vicinity, it's not really that critical. Next to and the sound icon will also show you that you're transmitting. The microphone icon will. If you see the little green bar rising up in the microphone, you know you're transmitting. There's also a menu associated with this icon. Right next to it, this little up caret. If we click that, we can select, if we have more than one microphone, we can select the microphone we want to use. And if you have more than one output device, more than one set of speakers attached to your computer, you can select the ones you wish. You can also test your speakers and microphone, which is a very good thing to do before the meeting starts. Yes, I hear a ringtone. Yes, I hear a ringtone. Yep, yeah, I did hear that reply, and you're finished. So it'll tell you if your sound devices are working. You can switch to phone audio. There are 2 options for audio in Zoom. One is computer audio, voice over IP through Zoom itself. The other is to use your phone, either your smartphone or a desk phone, to both speak and hear the audio. The vast majority of the time you'll want to use the computer audio, unless you don't have speakers attached to your computer. You can also change audio settings at any time. The next icon, a little stylized camera, is your video control icon. This allows you to control whether other people can see you if you have a webcam. You can turn off your video by clicking on the webcam, and you'll go to the little red slash will appear, and you'll no longer appear to your attendees. And just clicking it again will bring you back. Speaking as someone who does a lot of Zoom meetings, it's always nice when you leave your video on, because as a presenter, I can see what you're thinking sometimes, and see if I'm losing you, things like that. It's much better if you leave it on in general terms. There's also a video settings menu next to the little camera. You can, if you have more than one camera attached to your computer, you can select which one you want to use. Indeed, I've used up to 4 cameras attached to a single computer in a Zoom meeting before, where each one was looking at something different. And you have that option. You can only use one camera at a time, but you can quickly switch between them using this menu here. You also have a video settings menu, which you can use in a variety of ways. I'm not going to go into great detail there, but you can set your screen aspect ratio. You can set your whether to use high definition if your webcam is capable of it. You can mirror so that things are not turned left to right and so on. Most of the rest of these you just leave on as is. You can also, in the video menu, go to the virtual background, which I have behind me right now. What I have behind me is actually a wall, a green wall, actually. But I can put any of these virtual backgrounds behind myself. And you can upload your own pictures, which is what I have. Here is a picture out my back window. You can do this. It works a little better with a green screen, but you don't have to have a green screen. If you have a reasonably consistent background behind you with not a lot of, not real cluttered, it may work anyway. It's always worth a try if you want to try that. So that's how you set a virtual background, or you can go directly to that in that setting in this menu here as well by just hitting choose a virtual background, pick the photo that you want to use, and see what happens. Here's your invite button. This allows you, if you have a running meeting, to invite people to it. You can go directly to your Yahoo Mail if you have that up. And it will give you a message that you can send to whomever you wish that has all the information necessary to access the meeting. So that's a useful thing sometimes. Let's see. That's probably these. Another thing you can do is copy your Zoom URL to your clipboard and just paste that into an email and send it right away. But you've usually taken care of this before you start the meeting. You, as the host, can manage your participants in certain ways. First off, you can see who's in here with you very quickly, how many people there are, and get some information about who they are, depending on how they've logged in. You can mute or unmute them at will, he said. What that does is send a message to them asking them to unmute themselves, actually. You can also chat with them directly. You can stop their video. You can make them a host so that they can do things that normally only you can do. Or you can make them the host and cut yourself off, or make them a co-host and they can do some of the things you can do that normally they wouldn't be able to. You can allow them to record, which people will occasionally record by themselves, so they get their own recording of this. If they happen to be a real-time captioner in your meeting, in order to provide that service, you can assign that to them. You can rename them, or you can kick them out of the meeting in an extreme circumstance. We won't be doing that today. Also, here are buttons where you can do things like, you can mute everyone at one time if you need to. You can unmute everyone. And you can set certain default behaviors. This is where you can also answer questions or surveys, yes, no. They can ask for go slower, go faster. They can like, dislike, and so on. But mainly what you're doing here as the host is looking to see who's in the meeting with you and muting and unmuting them at need more often than not. Alrighty, I'm not going to do polls right now. That's something we'll take up later in another video. We can share our screens. This is one of the most important capabilities of Zoom, so you definitely need to know how to do that. This button right here is very prominently featured to share your computer screen so that people can see what you're doing on your computer in a lecture situation. You just click that button and it asks you, well, what do you want to share? Almost always you will want to share your desktop, your entire screen. That's much simpler. Just do that and you'll be fine. You also have the option to share a whiteboard, but that's not going to come up very often, and there are better options for that I'll show you later in the presentation. But you probably want to share your dashboard. Here I have 3 dashboards because I have 3 screens on this machine. You will not probably have that, though you may well have 2. But I would share your entire screen. There are a couple of options down here at the bottom that you may want to consider if you're going to be sharing video with your attendees, like playing a YouTube video that you'd like them to see and hear. In that event, you should check both of these options. The default is to have those off. And then just click Share. Now, whoever is attending this meeting is seeing this, whatever's on my desktop. Let's see, what else do I have here? I can move, this is my control bar that I have when I'm sharing, and I can move that to the top and bottom of the screen to get it out of the way if I need to. So let's say here I might well be sharing my Canvas dashboard. Everybody in the meeting is now seeing my Canvas dashboard. And whatever I do here in real time shows up on their screens. And the sharing performance in Zoom is amazing. Even at relatively low bandwidth, your people who are in the meeting with you will be able to see your screen and what you're doing on it pretty much in real time. And you can play videos, like play a YouTube video. They will be able to see it and hear it. There may be some minor issues with lip sync if someone is talking in a close-up, but other than that, it's going to be nearly perfect. In this little control bar here, you can do a number of things. You can stop your video because there will be somewhere a little thumbnail with your video in it. You still have access to manage participants just as you did when you were showing your webcam. Polls. You can do a new share and replace this one. You can pause the share. If you want to do something for a moment that you don't want your attendees to see, you can pause the share. You can annotate. Let's see. Draw circles around things. Draw arrows. You can erase stuff. You can spotlight things. Use this little pointer that people have a hard time missing. You can draw, which is the default. Get the spotlight off here. And you can type text. on the screen for them to see if you want to label something. So there's quite a lot you can do with annotation here. I'll go ahead and clear that. Remote control. You can give someone control of your screen while you are sharing your screen. They can request it from their menus, which they have while you are sharing, and then you can give it to them and they can show you something on your machine. And here are most of the other options that are not available in this menu bar, including your recording options and so on that you can change, that we'll look at in a moment. And if things get out of hand on annotations, you can disable participant annotations anytime you need to. You can hide those floating meeting controls. Or you can even end the meeting from here, which we definitely won't do right now. And when you're done with your share, just go ahead and click this red button right here that'll always be right below your share control panel. And you'll be back with your participants seeing your webcam rather than your screen share. That's probably the most important thing that you need to know how to do in Zoom. This is a sharing control menu. If you have this checked, other people other than you can share, but only one at a time. And then we're not going to look at advanced sharing options right now. Probably the second most useful tool in Zoom is the chat tool. If I click on that, I get a little chat window. Whatever I type in this message box at the bottom will be displayed once I press enter on the keyboard. You can display it to everyone or to other individuals in the meeting. If I just press enter, yes, whatever I type appears here. You can put links in here, all sorts of useful stuff. When you're done with the meeting, near time when you're done, you can save the chat using this little chat menu here if you like. And you can control who people can chat with and how, and so on. So the chat tool is very simple, very basic, works very reliably, and it's a wonderful thing to keep running as you're doing a presentation so that people can ask questions or participate or share comments without having to interrupt you. And you can move this window around on the screen. If you have multiple monitors, you can drag it right off to another screen and keep it open so that you can keep an eye on it the whole time. If you do not have the chat window open and somebody sends you a chat message, a little window will pop up at the bottom of the screen here with the first bit of the chat message in it, alerting you to the fact that there is something in the chat you might want to look at. Recording. You can record your Zoom sessions in really very reasonable quality, both your webcam video and anybody else who speaks, their video will, if they pop up on the screen, they'll be recorded, their video will be recorded, and their audio will be, all audio is recorded, both yours and participant audio. Whenever you share your screen, the screen shares will be recorded as well in quite reasonable qualities. This makes Zoom a screencasting tool as well as being a meeting tool. Usually, you'll have the option to either record to your local computer or to the cloud. If you have Confer Zoom accounts, you have some cloud space that you can use for recordings as well. There are advantages to doing it both ways, And I have another video that we'll look at here in a minute that will show you how to do the recording. I'm not going to do that right now, but that's where you record. So if I wanted to record this session to the computer, I just click here.
This meeting is being recorded.
Everyone is told that you're recording them so that there's nobody is surprised later. And the recording continues. You can pause or stop this recording at any time. And if you stop the recording, you can start another recording later, and Zoom will save both of the recordings when you exit from the meeting. Indeed, if you have recorded at any time during the meeting, when you end the meeting, the recording will automatically either be saved to the cloud or saved to a Zoom folder in your documents directory on your local computer. I'm just going to go ahead and stop that now.
The recording has stopped.
And that pretty much covers what I wanted to on the Zoom menu here. You do have the option for closed captions. You can assign someone, and you can also, if someone is assigned to that, there will be a closed captioning window that will pop up that people can see if they so choose. You also have the option to use so-called breakout rooms, where kind of like groups in an LMS, you can assign participants automatically or manually to breakout rooms, and you can set the number of participants and the number of rooms. So it's quite handy if you want to have people be able to leave the main session, work on something of their own, and then report back to the entire session later. And that'll do it for now.